experienced something lucky, group number one sees it as more than luck, more than coincidence. They see it as a sign, evidence that there is someone up there watching out for them. Group number two sees it as just pure luck, a happy turn of chance. I'm sure the people in group number two are looking at those 14 lights in a very suspicious way. For them, this situation is a 50-50. Could be bad, could be good. But deep down, they feel that whatever happens, they're on their own. And that fills them with fear. Yeah, there are those people. But there's a whole lot of people in the group number one. And they see those 14 lights. They're looking at a miracle. And deep down, they feel that whatever's going to happen, there'll be someone there to help them. And that fills them with hope. See, what you have to ask yourself is, what kind of person are you? Are you the kind that sees signs, sees miracles? Or do you believe that people just get lucky? Or look at the question this way. Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
Welcome to Market Makers, everybody. Your home for tomorrow's TA today. Often imitate it, never replicate it. Guys, special transmission for you today. We're going to cover the eclipse crash cycle because April 8th is the total solar eclipse over the USA. The last time the total solar eclipse came, perhaps not a coincidence, was 7 years ago. You guys know 7 years is a very important market cycle. We've been over that many times. We'll cover it again in future videos. But guys, we got to talk about this total solar eclipse that's coming, the eclipse crash cycle. A couple of charts we need to go over first. Lee, throw up that first slide. You guys need to understand, we talk about the cardinal points in the markets. I showed you the circle, the idea of the market being a circle. W.D. Gann pioneered this idea over 100 years ago. You have cardinal points in the market. You have your pivot points of the spring equinox, the fall equinox, and 90% of all crashes and panics happened going back to the tulip bubble in the 1600s, all happened in that 6-month window, January to March or August to October. The spring and the fall equinox being the key pivot points in the marketplace. Then you have the summer solstice, and then you have the winter solstice. And what is the winter solstice commonly referred to on the business news? The Santa Claus rally. These are seasonal points in the market, guys. These are key pivot points in the marketplace. The eclipse cycle was discovered by Steve Puetz. He went back and studied all of the eclipses from 1885 all the way to 2007 when he published his book 2008. He's a mathematician. So I think it's 257 eclipse cycles, and he came up with an eclipse cycle. I'm going to go over it with you in the charts because it is very important to note how this is going to play out and what structures we have, what fractals we have here in the prior patterns to give it confluence, because trading is all about confluence. Need to see another chart. Lee, throw up our solar maximum chart. Guys, we made a solar maximum video going over the solar maximum and talking about all the different crashes that have happened during solar maximum. Why is this important? It's an 11-year cycle. It was not supposed to hit till the end of this decade. It got pulled forward. So let's just look at this chart. 1929, Lee, highlight that. Solar maximum. What happened? Oh, the great crash of 1929, which ended up losing 84% of the market value. What about, let's move forward, 1972. Solar maximum. What happened? The S&P fell 66%. Remember, this run up right now in the S&P, concentration wise and speed wise, is the fastest and strongest run up since 1971 with that nifty 50 crash that happened there in the early 70s. Let's fast forward to 1987, Lee. That is the stock market panic at that point in 200 years of history, the greatest stock market decline in a single day ever at that point in market history. That was 1987 crash, guys. Let's go forward to 2000, Lee. 2000. What do we have in 2000, guys? .com. All of these are solar maximums. We are in a solar maximum now. And look at the leverage in the market. Look at the historical norms in the marketplace. And then let's look at 2008, 2009. I guess you call it 2007, 2008, Lee. You can see that is a solar minimum, right? These are pivot points. Pivot means you can go up or down, but a solar minimum. And remember, the GFC was not a stock market bubble. It was a real estate bubble that took down the stock market. So what do these all have in common? The greatest stock market crashes in history, going back over 100 years, all happened in solar maximums. And we are in a solar maximum now, a cycle that is only supposed to occur every 11 years. And we got pulled forward to this year. So this is some fascinating stuff. And we're going to look over this here on the charts. I'll explain the eclipse crash cycle to you on the actual charts. I need my visual aids. But what's happening right now, guys? By the way, I hope everybody had a fantastic Easter weekend if you celebrate. But what's happening right now? The dollar's breaking out, right? We look like we're forming our top. We spent last video going over all the advanced Fibonacci techniques to look for these tops. So watch that video if you didn't see it. We look like we're forming tops. The dollar's breaking out. The 10-year yield is rising. Remember, the economic data is coming in stronger. We have a lot of economic data coming in this week. Last week, Powell said, of course, we're in no rush to cut. Why would they be? They never raised interest rates to where they should have been. And now the economy is reaccelerating, even though underneath, it's actually in a strong mode of decay. But the markets see the reacceleration. They're going to see the Fed possibly not cut at all, barring a disaster this year. And you're going to see this big retracement that we're looking for, this 8 to 10% down move. And then I believe we're going to bottom, and that could be the S&P at 4,800, went over this last video. That could be the S&P at 4,800, and then moving to our blow off tops. And then when you look at the next seasonal pivot point in the marketplace, the fall equinox, we'll see how we're setting up at that time, if we're going to be topping and then breaking down, and then that will be your crash. And what happens in all of these crashes with an incoming recession? The market never once in history put in its low prior to a recession. That means the S&P's low is going to get taken out. That means the Bitcoin low of 15.5 will get taken out because it'll move with the markets just like it did in 2022. But that's all further down the road. That's potentially later this year, maybe spring equinox of 2025. What we have now are trade setups in front of us, and that's what we want to focus on right now because our trades are in profit and we want to see what's happening here in the marketplace. So Lee, without further ado, let's start the show. All right, guys, let's do a quick market update before we jump into the eclipse crash cycle. As always, this transmission brought to you by our two fantastic sponsors, SimpleFX and BingX. Trade all the equities, commodities, and cryptos on those two exchanges with our links. Get our exclusive bonuses. All the details are in the video description. I'll pin them in the YouTube comments. And of course, message Lee and our Telegram with any questions or message us on X. Both exchanges will pay for your first month on our freedom seeking Discord, guys. So take advantage of that. You get all of our indicators for free, the education, the content, the live streams that are there, all for free with that membership as well. Guys, give us a follow on X so we can continue to build up that platform. We do appreciate it. Let's look at the 10-year. This is pressuring the markets. You're at 4.325. If we can take out 4.354, then look for the 10-year to potentially move up to 4.548, further putting pressure on the marketplace to begin this descent for this corrective move that we are looking for in the marketplace. Let's look at the DXY. Trying to break out of this fractal here at 104.963. You're almost at 105. You're at 104.983. This is going to come up and contend with the 105.672. If it can break through there, look for the golden ratio at 106.573. You can find confluence with this move, taking a fib retracement from that second peak here on the daily chart down to that low. And you can see right here, you have the 786 laying on top of the 1272. So I expect resistance to that 105.7 area for the DXY, but you have this beautiful W pattern here in the DXY, and I expect it to come up to one of these two levels. Okay, again, further pressuring the marketplace. Let's talk about the eclipse crash cycle. Again, Steve Pwett studied this heavily. There's a way this normally plays out, and again, there's variances in the cycle. Couple of key things to note. October 2023, down here, this was a lunar eclipse. It provided a bottom to the candle for this parabolic rally to the upside. We just had another lunar eclipse, and you have the topping action happening right now in the marketplace. Now, the way this cycle typically plays out is the first new moon before the solar eclipse, which would have been on the 11th of, what month was that? 11th of March. The first new moon would be a top. As you can see, we're still in the topping process, and the total solar eclipse is right here on April 8th, which also is a new moon, obviously. So we could call this the top. The reason this is important is typically this cycle plays out in an 89-day period. Why is 89 days significant, guys? Fibonacci number 89. Okay, that's typically how it plays out. So let's go ahead and expand this a little bit, and I'll explain what these dates are here as well. We're going to expand this some so you can see this. There we go. Now, normally what happens is you get your top on a new moon. It may very well be the April 8th total solar eclipse as well, right here. And then you get a decline until the following new moon. So basically almost 30 days of decline. You rally back up into the full moon, and then you get 2 to 4 weeks of panic selling. Now in Japan and the market crash back in 89, what you had was 6 weeks of panic selling. So again, variances in the pattern here, but you get more panic selling, bottoming potentially on that new moon or the following full moon. Okay, so that's the market movements. But let's take this out. Let's say April 8th, we retest this area, put in our final topping action here for the total solar eclipse. Let's go out 89 days and see where we're at. So 89 days. Look at some of the key levels here. This bright green line is the summer solstice on June 20th. That's 73 days. The full moon following that, 74. The following new moon is 88 days, and that's July 5th. So what would that mean when we're talking about these dates? If this cycle, again, if this cycle was to play out close to the textbook, we could potentially be topping here on the total solar eclipse. We would be selling off, right? Selling off, coming down to the next new moon, rallying back up to the following full moon, and then have the next period of selling, maybe get a double top or whatever, get your next period of selling, and you wouldn't be bottoming until sometime late June 20th, around the summer solstice, out to July 5th, this region, okay? And again, our targets were 4,800 as my likely target. The deeper retracement would be that 4,600 level. Again, looking for an 8 to 10% retracement. Let's go ahead and remove some of this and look at some of the TA currently here in the marketplace. So when we look at the S&P, we had a couple of things happen. Obviously, we came back up We had Powell last week say no rush to cut rates, obviously. We have the economy, which is a paper tiger, appears to be strong, even though we have a lot of deterioration in the economy. And we have a lot of economic data coming out this week. Because yields are up, because the DXY is moving up, the markets are trying to top here and selling off some. Right now, you're at 52.90 on the E-mini. Watch what happens as we approach April 8th for the total solar eclipse. If this is the top, guys, we should be looking for 30 days of selling out to that following new moon, which would be May 7th, 2024. We'll see if this cycle does play out. Be really interesting. Obviously, we'll form patterns on the daily chart. When we look at some of our indicators here as well, do we have any indicators here? Let's go ahead and get our MFI on here. Looking at our MFI, you're still above the median line, but again, lots of divergence here on the E-mini. Okay, lots of divergence. This whole rally up, basically since the Santa Claus rally, the winter solstice rally, the whole rally up here has been divergent. Okay, so when we look at these targets again, you want to see a 53.34 key Fibonacci ratio here, the golden ratio. If that holds as our top as we approach these key seasonal / cyclical pivot points in the marketplace. This will be a lot of fun to watch and amazing if it plays out. Okay. So we're going to watch this. Now let's go ahead and move forward. Let's look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ's at 18,457. Again, our key Fibonacci level. If you want to see how we laid out these fibs, watch last video. Did a whole video on advanced Fibonacci concepts here on the equities. Okay. And on Bitcoin. 1272, 18,476. You're at 18,458 right now. This is nothing. This is not big retracements. I'm in a short on the NASDAQ above 18.6. But we're going to see if this starts breaking down and playing out. This is a 3-day chart. Let's look at this on the daily and look at some of our fractals that need to be broken for more downside. Obviously, the key fractal here, the immediate key fractal, is this low, which is 18,378. You start dipping below this, then you can start coming and test these lows. Your key upside fractal you need to break for more upside is 18,709. So in other words, you want more upside, then break this fractal, come up, make your W pattern, break out to the upside. Okay. If not, you're putting in what looks to be a double top here on the smaller time frames. If you break 18,380 there, then watch for further declines and watch for this to start to accelerate if we get these movements in the 10-year and DXY to continue. You are bearish here on the money flow. Momentum is flat on the daily time frame on the NASDAQ. Let's go ahead and look at the Dow. I mean, look how beautifully this ended up playing out. The golden ratio, 40,298. We got just above it to 40,358. Nice big red candle here on a 5-day chart. Let's go ahead and put this on a daily. You can see this. What's your key levels here? Well, let's look at this from the fractal perspective. We have to knock out that low, which is 39,657. If you take that out, look for further downside. You want to flip this around to the upside? Well, this is easy. Then you have to get above 40,300 and hold it, right? So you got to do this move, pull back, break back out to the upside. But again, I'm looking for this, guys, based on these retracement levels, based on the time frame where we're at, based on these parabolic runs up. I'm looking for this move down. We went over all these levels last video. Okay. So these are just some key levels you have to break to get some further downside in the marketplace. We look at the Russell. What did the Russell do? It tried to get above the 618 at 2146. And what happened? It got smacked down. It's at 2123 right now. Again, not a huge retracement, but if the 618 holds, key Fibonacci ratio, then you want to see where this could go from here. Okay. First thing you want to do is see if you pull back to the ceiling of 2033. It's almost 100 points lower. So let's look at this. This is a 5-day chart. Let's go to the daily, get some more candles. First level you want to break in the Russell here, just looking at this from a fractal perspective, you want to take out that low, 2089. You take out 2089, you're going to be coming back to the ceiling at 2033. You want more upside, then you got to take out your high. You got to take out your high and move up. Your high of 2167, your next target would be 2220. We'll see if this happens. Watch to see if the VIX starts spiking up, people buying protection. Watch to see if the DXY and the 10-year continue to put pressure on the marketplaces as we approach April 8th, the total solar eclipse. Let's go ahead and move forward. Looking at BTC, 3-day chart. Again, target hit beautifully, guys. If we want to look at this from the fib perspective, you have a bearish candle right now after three-day candles up. There's your Tom DeMark TD9, which is a Gann method for trend on a 3-day chart. 3 up candles on a 3-day chart, and here's your reversal candle so far, right? So I shorted Bitcoin, posted a trade up here in the room above 71K to 72.5. You're at 68.5 right now. And we can look at this from where's my Fibonacci? Do this, get our projection once again. Hit our 2 fib beautifully. Once you start on a 3-day perspective, we're going to zoom into the daily here as well. But where the big retracement will happen, people keep asking me this, is you got to take out that fractal, 60,780. You take that fractal out, then you're coming back down to those levels we previously talked about, that 48, 49K region, that 44 to 46K region, down in these areas, okay? But you have to take out that fractal. And let's look at this on a daily time frame. Daily time frame, you got your bearish engulfing here as well. So we'll see if this is going to roll over. You need it to roll over to get further downside. If it doesn't roll over and ends up pulling back, that's how you trigger the upside switch. And you need to take out 73,765 to do that move. Okay. So we'll see if the markets continue to get pressure, then you're going to see Bitcoin also be pressured. For those of you that don't think Bitcoin moves with the markets, go look at 2022. When Bitcoin fell 75%. And that was just the NASDAQ falling 38% and the S&P falling, whatever it was, 26, 27, 28%. So that's what's going to happen. And we'll see if it plays out, but you need further downside. If not, this can reverse and go to the upside. But as of right now, it's playing out quite nicely on a daily chart. You are bullish here on the MFI. You could be rolling over here for a double top. Let's look at our momentum. Momentum, again, bearish divergence on momentum. I mean, you have bearish divergence on the MFI as well, but this is why you have the second top that's lower. Now you're just ranging, you're selling off a little bit more than normal in this range, but you need to see further breakdowns. You took out this low here, well, you're bouncing off that low, 68 or 68.4. If you get below 68.4, then look for this to start coming down and then watch 64,299, okay? If you want to flip it out to the upside, take out 73,765. Let's look at Solana. I posted another trade on Solana, the same exact levels we've been talking about, guys. We traded it before. As you guys know, here on the 3-day chart, we traded it before by that 205 level. Got a 21% drop. We talked about it on YouTube, traded it on the Discord, and then I did a rinse and repeat trade from 200 to 205. Right now, at the time of this recording, you're at 188. Since my entry, it did drop 8.5%. So again, these are just nice trades, 20% trade. I mean, that's a great trade, but 8%, 8.5%, nice trades. But to get further downside, let's look at this on the daily chart. You need to see further breaking down in the chart, obviously. First fractal I want to take out is right here at 180. If you get below 180, then watch where you bounced from before at 163, okay? If you want to flip this around, go to the upside, then you got to take out that fractal at 210. You're at 188 right now at the time of this recording. So further downside, watch a break below 180. You're coming down possibly to that 163, 165 range. And if you can hold this upward trend, because it is an upward trend right now, higher lows in the trend, you want to reverse that. But this is a really ugly candle, as you can see on the daily time frame, an engulfing bearish candle. We'll see what happens. The markets continue to accelerate to the downside or chop to the downside, you're going to see pressure in the crypto land as well. The DAX is closed. It's a holiday in Europe, so our levels remain the same, guys. Just watching some different levels on the DAX. Had some different projections we went over last video. We're above the golden ratio at 18,641. Using this projection, if I want to go ahead and throw on my square of 3 here. Let me put this on here, 1732. Put that on there. That's 18,922. My next level above 18,922 is 19,057 on the DAX. But again, if the U.S. markets continue to sell, which we don't know how they're going to go into the close. It's like 2 in the afternoon here, Eastern time. We don't know if it's just going to bounce or sell off hard. You can see the DAX start to reverse in futures tonight when it opens up. Okay, so be aware of that. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Leave me your questions, comments, message me on X as well. I'll be sure to get back to everybody that I can. Take care, everybody.